Alrighty, good evening. I want to call this meeting to order. The time is 6:01 p.m. Welcome to a regular meeting of the Board of Trustees of St. Helena. Hold on one moment. It did this to me last time. Okay. For those of you who have just joined us after closed session, welcome to this regular meeting of the Board of Trustees. I'm Laura Simon, the board president. I'd like to introduce my fellow trustees, Lisa Pelosi, Sean Mora, Jeannie Kerr, Jean Marie Wolf, and our new student board representative, Andy Martinez. I would also like to introduce our district staff, Superintendent Dr. Jody McClay, Assistant Superintendent Mr. Christopher Heller, Chief Business Official Dr. Kay Vang, Executive Assistant to the Superintendent and Governing Board Ms. Erica Madrigal, Executive Assistant to the Assistant Superintendent Ms. Melissa Hansen, Director of Technology Mr. Derek Machado. Additional staff members are joining us in the audience. Director of Educational Services, Mrs. Araceli Romo Flores. Director of Facilities and Maintenance, Mr. Mike Flores. St. Helena High School Principal, Mr. Benjamin Cinto. RLS Middle School Principal, Mr. Andrew Ryan. St. Helena Elementary School Interim Principal, Ms. Kathy O'Connor. And St. Helena Primary School Principal, Ms. Rebecca Rocha. We are delighted that you are viewing in person on television channel 27 or on our YouTube channel. A copy of this board meeting video will also be available on our website, www.sthelenaunified.org. In connection with item 4A, the board received information and provided staff with direction. Okay, before we proceed to our next agenda item, I'd like to invite members of the public to stand with us for a moment of silence. Today we observe Patriot Day, which, as we all know, is 9/11. And for those of us who were there on that day 24 years ago, we all know where we were that horrific day. So I appreciate that we are still honoring. I get emotional, even though it's been 24 years. Sorry. But that we are honoring that day and never forgetting what happened. So we'll do a moment of silence and stand up. Thanks. Thank you. Yes. Okay, thank you. Okay. Before we move on to the flag salute, I also want to mention that we will be heading back into closed session after tonight's meeting, live, open session. Thank you. There it is. Okay, let's move on to our flag salute. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Public comments at board meetings. Is there anyone present who wishes to publicly comment on items not on the meeting agenda? Thank you. Presentations. Okay, what we're going to do is administer the oath of office. So Andy, why don't you join me in the U? Great. Okay. Sorry. I am, but I left it out here and now it's disappeared on me.
Is it in here maybe? See if it's because you were looking at that earlier.
Thank you. Against all enemies, foreign Okay, we're going to continue with facilities, ed specs, and facilities master plan. And I'd like to call on Dr. Vang.
Thank you, President Simon. For this particular agenda item, I have a team that you are all very familiar with, but before I have them present, I do want to share some information. As you all know, Prop 2 was approved by voters on back in November of last school year, and Prop 2 authorized the issuance of about $10 billion in state general obligation bonds to fund construction. Part of that funding requires every district who is seeking these funds to have an updated facilities master plan. A facilities master plan also requires making sure that we have our educational specifications, and the team will talk more about what that all entails. It is required by California Code of Regulations Title V, Section 14034, along with Education Code Section 39101C. So that is those are the reasons why we need to include educational specs in our facilities master plan. For this particular agenda item, I've also included a draft of our facilities master plan. And the last time our facility master plan was written was back in 2010. And so we are not only updating and revising it, but we're also starting from scratch in terms of including our ed specs, short for educational specifications. And so with this, I am going to have the team come up here and present, and the board may be thinking, well, CBO KVA, how much is this going to cost us? And is there going to be an additional cost for us to include, ed specs? And how are we going to pay for these? So, yes, there is a cost. The team, in speaking with our architect, it will cost about $35,000 for us to include ed specs. This work will be done over a 6-month period, and we're going to share more about the plan and what it entails, but we are planning on coming back to the board in December to provide you with our facilities master plan, a more updated draft of our facilities master plan to include ed specs. How we will pay for this is, as you may know, and I will actually include this in my board budget update, is we did have a project over the summer. It was our primary school construction project, and the board had approved a budget for that. We are slightly under budget, so I would like to propose using that budget balance to move us forward with ed specs. So without further ado, I will have the team, Trent Summers with Motive Studio, used to be known as Casa Studio, and also John Delena with Greystone West. We also have Steve Pekovich with Greystone West. And we have Mike, our facilities director. And if I miss anyone else, guys, introduce the team. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Vang. That's a wonderful introduction. And again, it's always an honor to be speaking with you as we continue our facilities update process. Thank you for this opportunity. One of the things that we're going to talk about is, yes, it's very much an obligation of Prop 2 to have these documents in place, but we want to talk about what they are and how they bring good value to you and your district, and then a little bit about how we propose to move through that process. So when we start talking about this, Erica, I promised you I'd mess it up the first time. We're going to talk a little bit about what it is, an introduction to the ed specifications, why they're important, our next steps, and then, of course, we'll open it up for Q&A so we can roll over any questions as we move forward. This is the never-ending wheel of facility planning that I've had you in the last year. I apologize for that, but it is a process that doesn't really end, right? We start at the top, where we do an evaluation of our existing facilities and enrollment. We've done that. We develop a facility master plan. You have diligently done that with me. we move to the development of the educational specifications. And if we look out just to the right, we talk about what are they, right? They are a comprehensive district-wide planning tool. And that's a bunch of words that just kind of means this is what provides detailed information about what goes in the boxes that we build, right? John and I are really good at building boxes. We need to speak to your teachers, your educators, your community to make sure that we execute the curriculum and the vision that you have for the education in those educational spaces, which is how they tie together. Once the educational specifications are done, we do the implementation plan, we develop a funding plan, we build those facilities, and then we just kind of start over looking at that wheel. So really what we're doing is looking at how the educational goals and programs and philosophies of the district are housed in the facilities we build and modernize. That's really the core of what an educational specification is. So what are they, right? They're the link between the design of school facilities and the educational programs that they're intended to support. They aren't really what we're building. They're sort of how the facility is used. So they're not going to be coming to say, these are proposed facility solutions. They're going to come with a much more open idea of this is what these need to do. So they're more performative in that regard. That tool is then given to your architect to execute, saying, make sure that whatever you build, whatever we do, put our diligent dollars into, adds the value that we need to create the educational spaces. Does that make sense? So we're not going to be coming with a lot of facility hard needs anymore. We're through that. We'll touch back on that always, but this is going to be a much more performative portion, and I think it's going to be a little bit more fun, I promise. It has to be much more fun than what we've done. So we're going to get into the fun part. We're getting into the reason why you're here, right? You have all committed to educating students and educating students in your community at the highest level. This is how we codify that. This is how we bring this forward, and this is how we use it to inform any facility decision we make moving forward, which is also why the state says you need to have them. Right? So what are they going to do? They're going to reflect the priorities and standards of your districts, right? They're going to be, they are crucial in facility planning because that then ties those to their built environment. We're going to provide clarity and guidance to all of those future designs. You're going to have a tool that says, again, this is what these facilities have to do. Not what they look like, not what they're made of, what they have to do. And then we're going to follow and reflect all the code requirements that are kind of tied to there in Title V, but also those regulations. So we'll do a little bit of a button up of the legal that you need to have in there. So there'll be a little component there to make sure you're compliant with all the regulations that we need to kind of make sure we adhere to make sure we get you in line for all that good funding. So what's that going to look like? We're going to start gathering the information that we've collected and sort of rehousing it from more of a hard facility approach to more of this performative approach. We're doing that now in the background, working with Dr. Vang weekly and with John to kind of use that facility master plan to inform that, right? We're always going back to the last promise. We're always going back to that last piece of information and moving it forward. So we're going to do a lot of data gathering. We're going to start having meetings with the superintendent, which we do, the business ops committees, site administration teams, right? Again, as I tell everybody, we build school buildings all across California. You have to tell us how to make those your buildings. So we're going to talk a lot. We're going to listen even more. And then we're going to get that feedback from our site administrators, our district staff, community as we move forward. Then we're going to take all that information in November. We're going to organize it. We're going to analyze it. And then we're going to tie it to a document that we come back in December and review with you. You guys will have some time to review that, similar to the facility master plan. And then we'll bring it to you for adoption. That's sort of the rough process. That's the timeline. You can see how all that lines out. And if we need more backup, we can definitely bring that back to you as we do with our proposal. So next steps, we will be bringing back to you a proposal for the ed specs. We understand that it is not an insignificant amount of money, and I will make sure that the detail provided to you justifies how all that money will be spent. And then we'll do some kickoff meetings and data gathering with Dr. Vang and through the guidance of the district. Questions, comments? That was a lot of information, but I like to get through it quick and then we can get down to the conversation. I'm not that good. Come on.
Okay, so any questions?
Public comment.
Okay, is there anyone present that would like to comment on this agenda item? Okay. Board members?
Question. So once we do these ed specs and they get folded into the facilities master plan, is that a one and done? Like, are we good for until we have to update? I mean, so in other words, like, is that good for 5 years?
Yeah, I hear the optimism of your voice, and I promise to leave you guys alone.
Well,
soon.
I'm usually the Debbie Downer when I'm talking to you guys up here.
You
So
guys are
you know.
awesome. I love coming here. It's that wheel, right? We go right back to that wheel.
Okay.
And that does not mean that you have to come back and update them every 2 years. That does not mean I don't believe at this point the state has regulations as to when.
Okay.
It's just going to be a comprehensive part of your process.
Okay.
Right? As we roll through, we talked about, again, as we do facility planning, we're going to check back to that facility master plan. Let's check back to those ed specs. Because they're more performative, as soon as you look at your ed specs and go, this is no longer housing our vision, that's when I suggest you guys do a full revision of them. We can come through and do amendments for them if you say some things have changed. As long as they're reflective of your vision, where you want your district to go and how you want your students to be educated, those educational specifications will support your vision.
Okay.
As soon as they don't, it's time to retool them.
Okay. And then I think there was about the next steps is starting to meet with staff. Obviously, it's district staff. Does that go out into the sites as well? And we, down to getting teaching staff involved as well?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
In fact, we plan on the entire team. We will have dates that we will share we'll work out with the site principals, and we will go to the sites and present at specs.
Okay.
And have a procedure, a process where we can gather feedback from the staff. So we will be going to them instead of asking them to come to us. And we will make sure we get to all 4 sites. And also, as Trent mentioned, this will also be folded into business operations.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you for being here this evening, as always. Thank you.
Oh, I love it here.
So my question is so we go through the educational specifications, get all the information that we need. It seems to me that with that we may have to, with the vision that has been discussed and is part of this plan, it sounds to me as if we might have to refine and look at our budget again to make sure to like possible increases and things to our budgets, our building budgets, because of this
Yeah, I think
draft.
we always want
this
these
plan?
documents to inform each other, right? So when we kind of look at this, the facility master plan and the educational specifications, those are always going to inform the implementation plan. You have an incredible asset with John from Greystone, who's always keeping his finger on the pulse of that. It's just another tool that he can use to inform those budgets. So they're always kind of, we kind of talk about it, it's a process, not a product. Right? That process is always going to be informed by these 2 tools, and we'll definitely be kind of tuning those up and bringing them back. That's what we talked about. Let's check in on this every year at least. As soon as we can gather more information and have these tools to guide that, it will definitely be used to inform that process. And if some of those changes need to be made, we'll certainly bring them back to you and have a visioning and information presentation so you understand how they changed, but also why they changed, so we can all be in agreement with that.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you.
It's bringing to mind that lovely color-coded spreadsheet that we have that we spent a long time on of ranking between warm, safe, dry, the priorities. I'm assuming that is a working, living, breathing document through this process as well, because we've already spent a fair amount of time identifying
Absolutely.
what was priorities.
Absolutely. And so when we think about this, right, the facility master plan really informs what.
Okay,
The education specifications include how.
okay.
And so they work together in unison. Absolutely, you can't
Okay.
get rid of my spreadsheet.
Okay,
You
great.
can get rid of me, but that spreadsheet will live here forever with you guys. No,
Okay. All right, thank you.
absolutely.
Okay. All right, we'll move on. Okay, great.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, 8B, approval of professional services agreement for construction management services for the St. Helena Elementary School roof drainage and HVAC and the St. Helena High School portable removal projects. Dr. Vang.
So I am bringing forth this agenda. There are 2 projects, construction projects, that Greystone West has helped us manage. One being the elementary school, which the board has already approved a budget for this project to happen this coming summer. And in addition, we also had Greystone helping us out with the portables, specifically the high school portables, which if you've not been out there, they are gone, and that space is now empty. So I am bringing forth this agenda item, asking the board to approve the amendment to the, the wrong one, to the Great Stone West contract. Thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone present who wishes to comment on this agenda item? Okay. Do the trustees have any questions about this agenda item?
I guess I need clarification. So since we've already done the portables for the high school, they're gone. Is this on the work that's going to be accompanied with whatever's going to be happening in that area? Or,
This is the work to actually remove those two portables from the high school. So if you, the Great Stone West's contract, it's a percentage of each project. And so in the attachment, there is an amount based off of the actual project itself.
so we're accepting this after the project has been,
For the high
for
school
the high
one,
school?
yes.
Okay. Great, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the professional services agreement for construction management services for the St. Helena Elementary School roof, drainage, and HVAC, and the St. Helena High School portable removal projects as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Andy, would you like to cast a preferential vote?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion carried. Okay, consent agenda. So the consent agenda contains routine items judged as appropriate to be acted upon in one motion. If a board member requests that an item be removed from the consent agenda, the item will be considered under discussion action items.
So President Simon, if I may, staff would like to pull 2 items from consent. Letter A, approval of minutes, and letter I, the personnel register, for subsequent discussion.
Okay, thank you. Okay, is there anyone present who wishes to publicly comment on this agenda item? Okay, so I will say, actually, do the trustees have any questions about this agenda item?
Nope.
No.
Okay. Okay, so is there a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of items A and I as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion carried. Okay, so we want to, with A. Okay, so let's take a look at 9A, approval of the minutes of the regular meeting on August 14th, 2025.
Thank you, President Simon. There's actually 3 very minor revisions that staff would like to request. Under 10A, the discussion on the board members' training for 25-26. If you'll recall, the board had a lengthy discussion about whether or not to attend CSBA. Vice President Pelosi and I were reminiscing a bit on that discussion and really would like to include a statement or something as to the rationale for that decision, because if you'll recall, we believe a great portion of that decision was based on wanting to be cost conscientious, reducing costs for travel and conference. It had nothing to do with the value of the conference. So I would suggest the second sentence that we add something like, the board values the conference and learning opportunity. However, out of respect for the growing budget concerns and in an effort to reduce conference and travel expenditures, trustees unanimously decided to skip this year's conference. So there are 2 other items within the minutes that we also would like to request a small revision on. One is 12B, consideration of approval for the amendment to the employment contract between our chief business official and the district. And per legal counsel, the amendment term dates should be July 1 of 2025 through June 30th of 2028. We had originally left the starting term date in the amendment to be the same as the original contract, but that causes some concerns and questions with term limits. Subsequently, we would like to do the same thing with number 12C, review and consideration of approval for the amendment to the employment contract between the superintendent and SHUSD. We have the same request, wanting to change the start date of the term on the amendment to July 1 of 2025. It originally said November 1st of 2024, which was the start date on my original contract, but the date on the amendment should be July 1 of 2025 through June 30th of 2029. So those are the three revisions that staff would like to make into the minutes before you approve them.
Okay. Okay. Are there any questions? Oh, sorry, is there anyone present who wishes to publicly comment on this agenda item? Okay, do the trustees have any questions about this agenda item?
No questions, just a comment. It's just on the contracts, it is actually very accurate because I have pulled up a contract for previous employees, and the amendments always have a different reflective date, not the start date. So I just wanted to confirm that with all of you, that that is the way that goes, so. And so that was it. And I'm very much in support of the amendment to the minutes about the CSBA conference.
And then, would you like to finish that one off
Anything
with a vote, and before we move to letter I, the personnel?
Why don't we, well,
Or can we do both at the same time?
if we're in
A
agreement
and I?
with, if we're in
You
agreement
can.
with both. I would, okay, sure.
Okay, then in regard to letter I, the personnel register, that's a simple one. We had to remove an item off of this, and we will bring it back next month after we do a little more digging and fixing of some things. And so this is a revised version that we have in front of you tonight, different than what was posted on Friday.
Okay. Is there anyone who wishes to publicly comment on this agenda item? Do the trustees have any questions about this agenda item? No. Okay. Is there a motion to approve items A and I as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those
Aye.
opposed say no. Sorry. Motion carried. 10, communications. 10A, board member reports. And Trustee Wolf, please.
That's me.
Thank
That's
you.
me.
Awesome.
I love when it's my turn. Okay. Tonight, I have the privilege again of representing the St. Helena Primary School. And they, tonight, instead of talking about the children, which of course we're here to educate the children, we're going to talk a little bit about parent education, some great things happening for parents. Before we get to that, if we move through, I just wanted to kind of update you that everybody's back in school. There's a couple of cool kids in kindergarten this year. And just so you know our numbers, and these were accurate as of when I did this report, but it may have changed. It seems like the first few weeks of school seems to shift a bit. But those, you can see the numbers in our program, so I think that's great enrollment. And there's one of our sweet little angels, local family for sure. And then if you go down, there is our wonderful staff, our rock stars who keep it all together. So that's just a little logistical information before we get to the heart of everything. I want to tell you about now 2 programs that are coming up for parents. And the first we're going to talk about is The Anxious Generation. It's a book club, but unlike most book clubs, if you don't read the book, you'll be totally clueless. This book club, they have some really insightful questions. So even if you don't get a chance to read it, and I'm working on reading it, it's definitely not a beach read. It isn't something you just sit home at night and it's done. It's very eye-opening, I guess I would say. There are so many statistics in here that you read it and you think, wow, like, since the onset of the internet and all the time, screen time, things where emergency room visits for self-harm, girls are up like 189%, and it's just amazing, all the things, and it's really, if you get a chance to read it. But they are doing the sessions at the library, one in English, one in Spanish, and as I said, it's really encouraged for parents. If you read it, great, but if not, I had a list of questions, I think I forgot them, that Rebecca printed for me, but they talk about how does this affect your life? How does technology work in your home? Or think about how you grew up, because a lot of it talks about, I was the generation that when summer came, you went outside in the morning, you had to be home by dark. Sometimes you ran home to get lunch, but you were out on your bike, you were everywhere, and it's very different for kids nowadays. So they kind of explore, how did you feel as a child about that independence? And in a way, there's a whole movement to protect children, but in a way, is it by keeping them kind of inside and nearby? And so it really explores a lot of great topics, and I'm sure it'll be really good and lively discussion and very thought-provoking for everyone who attends. So that is in cooperation with the library, the public library here, and Rebecca and Selena have been working on this together. So that has gone out on Parent Square for all parents. I saw a flyer last night at the RLS Middle School. So it's not necessarily just primary school, it's anyone in the district. So if you know anyone, I would really recommend getting a chance to go to that. And the other program I want to tell you about is part of the parent education. And obviously, everything in the world's kind of affecting children, the more screen time. And one of the things that's important is to kind of talk about how this is affecting children's little brains. And again, fascinating information here. And as our principal told us, we're best to kind of stop and think about this than when kids are in primary school. There were several podcasts that Rebecca had recommended, and I watched a few of them, but they talk about how children's brains forms, and kids get to an age where it's almost like an addiction. Like this family talked about taking their son off all his devices, and he went through like a withdrawal, like anxious and angry, and it's kind of saying, okay, let's kind of start at the beginning and really think through this at this point. So really fascinating. And I mean, I think everybody at some point has used, in my day it was TV, the internet to babysit so you can fold laundry or get dinner made. But it's almost a point of focusing. And another interesting thing they talked about, kids going off to college that can't read a book. And it's not that they can't read the words, they know the words, but kids can't focus. They can't sit and read a book because I read one line and then I got to see what's on my text and then I read this and then I have to go get this. So really fascinating things. But anyway, so there are 3 different dates, and they're going to explore how we can support and help children as they grow to use screen time in a good, healthy way without too much. And there is a program called, let me find it, it says Wait Until 8, am I saying that right? Encouraging families to wait until 8th grade to give a cell phone. The amount of influence it has, especially on girls, and to look right and to have 1 million followers, it's really amazing. So it's a great time to start in the early years and start building that up. So I think that's a really great asset, and I think all of our schools do a good job with parent education. So those are my programs to talk about. But and I'm sure if there's any questions, but I want to tell you one cute little anecdote before I go, because I love the primary school. I went to have my meeting the other day, and there was a little boy who just is not liking TK, not happy at all. And he was in the office with Rebecca and Rosa and Nikki, and he had every excuse in the book that why he wasn't going to class. And for every excuse, one of those women in that office had a backup for him. And I just, finally goes, I think I'm sick. And Rebecca goes, well, should we take your temperature? No. But it was just, I was so impressed by the gentle, kind caringness. And I thought, oh, if I had a little person, I would want to know that they are in this wonderful, supportive environment, and just the patience, because I probably would have gone, get the class, but they were amazing. So I wanted to share, I think, how lucky our children are to be at the primary school. So if any have any questions for me, or I know Rebecca's here, she can also answer if you have questions about any of the programs. So thank you. Thanks for listening, and great stuff. Pass it on.
Thank you, Trustee Wolf. 10B, Superintendent's Report.
Okay, well, right along those lines, Trustee Wolf, I wanted to share a little bit about how awesome the start of the school year has been. Oh my goodness. In all my years, and I know staff is probably getting sick of me saying this, but we have just had such a smooth, knock on wood, seamless transition from 24-25 into the 25-26 school year. You would never know that students and staff have been off during the summer because we just hit the ground running on day one. So I wanted to share, I'm not sure, I don't think this is gonna work. No, oh, they're not in the right order. Oh, there we go. Yeah, okay, there we go. It all really started on the 15th of August when we brought staff back, just under 200 staff members, and we did something new this year. So you can see just a little hint here where everyone came to, at first, they're out of order, but that's okay. No, that's fine. Just keep going. No, thanks. That's fine. They came to the Performing Arts Theater. We did a little kickoff, and then we loaded buses. So we loaded 3 full school buses out in the front loop. I think all board members were there, and we did the big wave send-off as if they were going on a field trip. Staff were super excited. They were divided into 3 teams. We had docent, teachers, and staff members who took the lead on each bus, and each of the 3 buses visited 3 places throughout the city during the morning, and basically they spent about 30 minutes at each location and then moved on. I did want to give a public shout out not only to our docents and all of the staff behind the scenes who worked to put this event together, but also our community partners. So Chuck McMinn down at Vineyard 29, Kathleen Swains at the MAC, which is the Museum of Art and Culture, both of those places, as well as downtown on Main Street, and we worked with the city to reserve the gazebo at Lyman Park. There were activities at all of these locations where teachers and staff members alike were basically exploring with artificial intelligence and how things within our community really do relate to our student and our parent experiences in schools and what we want those experiences for kids to be. So all in all, a super fun day. Thank you to all of our board members for coming out and joining us. And we kicked off the year, we think, in a fun and festive manner. And that rolled right into the very next Monday morning, literally by, I would say by 9:10 that morning. And you can see from some of the pictures that students were in class, smiling, having fun, learning. Teachers were busy teaching. Here's the rally at the high school, a meeting with all of the resource staff members and people that we have on campus to help. Lots of hugs and high fives. There was an arch at the elementary school that was really kind of an impromptu thing that I know Mrs. O'Connor said parents and staff just kind of all of a sudden, we all lifted up our arms and we had all the kids run underneath it to enter the doors, as they began their elementary journey this year. So just lots of really fun and exciting, welcoming things. I always have to put a little plug in. Our parents looked a little more excited than some of the tired kids. I always get a kick out of that. I did hear that there were some parental activities downtown to celebrate the start of school, but likewise, every single school just did really, really above and beyond things to welcome their kids back, get everybody started and in class and situated, and we are off and running, and I will conclude with, we're also thrilled that enrollment is up. As of today, we are 61 students over where we ended the school year. That's about a 6% increase. So we are super excited about that. 3 of our schools have a pretty significant increase. The elementary is a tad down from where they ended. But all in all, district-wide, 61 new students into our district. So super excited about that.
Thank you, Dr. McClay. We'll move on to 10C, Chief Business Officials Budget Update. Dr. Vang.
Right, so again, the primary school re-roof and dry rot project, Principal Rocha is in the audience, and I think she can attest to that the project has been completed. We finished on schedule. We are not coming back to the board to ask for any change orders. In fact, our allocated budget, we were under budget, so that's, I believe that's great news for the board. So next month, the team will be back and they will be here to provide you with actual numbers and to really share some more information as to what we ended the project with. So be expecting that update next month. For the next item, for transportation, the transportation team, district, and I would love to thank the board for allowing us to purchase the new electric van, which we utilize every day for our Lake Berryessa route. The drivers and the students are extremely thankful and grateful. It is a smooth, quiet ride, and they are loving it, so thank you for your support. For item number 3, Facilitron revenue, I did want to provide the board with an update. Last year when I came to the board, we had added the RLS track and field to our list of reservable facilities. I've been tracking our revenue stream, our revenue, and I wanted to come back and share our revenue and give you a view, a summary of our revenue over the last couple of years. And you can see with our amazing facilities director, Mike Flores, really staying on top of our facilities reservations, ensuring that we're following our own protocols and procedures that we've put in place. We've been able to consistently bring in revenue, and so we are going to continue monitoring this and make sure that we are adhering to our own procedures. Additionally, last year, if you recall, I had said that one of the things that I will be working with our Mr. Flores on is looking at our rental fees. We haven't had a fee increase since 2016 when we put this in place, so we believe it may be time, way due, for us to review our rental fees and look at, increasing those fees to ensure that we're keeping up with cost of living, inflation, everything else. So that there's more to come this year. For item number 4, I wanted to share with the board that in order for us to comply with Ed Code, we are now starting this school year and moving forward. The district will be providing student accident sickness insurance for our students, for all of our students who participate in school sponsor activities. The administrators and I actually had a meeting, a virtual meeting with our vendor, so that we can understand the process, how it works, and so I believe I've got more clarity now, and we are rolling this out. I sent the administrators a follow-up email with the necessary paperwork. Should there need to be a claim, I will continue to work with the team, but know that we are now in compliance with Ed Code 32221. Moving on, last month, Jamie, who is our payroll benefits tech, and I attended the School Self-Insurance of Contra County, SISC. They are our Joint Powers Authority, our JPA, for our vision, dental, and life. Dental vision, not life. Let me take that back. And during the event, Michelle McKay Underwood, who's the Vice President of School Services of California, gave a presentation. I've included the presentation, her entire presentation in this agenda item. However, there were 4 slides that really stuck out to me that I wanted to share with the board. The first slide there, Vice President McKay shared some of the key drivers of the current economy and how some of the Trump administration policies have, are, such as trade policies, tariffs, immigration, we know all that is still happening, and there is an impact on our economy, creating lots of uncertainty for us. And so we need to be mindful as we are, especially for me, when I'm working on our budget, as we're, spending, we just need to be mindful that, we're still in these times where there's just still a lot of uncertainty, so we need to be mindful. On the next slide, I thought this was another great slide that she included in her presentation. These are all the risks to the state budget. We obviously, even though we're a basic aid district, we do get, state funding. It comes from the state's general fund, and so any risk to the state budget affects us. So it's a trickle-down effect. The next slide that I thought was pretty interesting was the federal education funding context. As you all know, there's been a flurry of federal activities that have impacted not only our federal education programs, but our funding. I believe last month I shared with the board that our title funds were withheld for this school year, and they were just recently released back to us and all the districts who funding was withheld from. So, it's important for us to understand that, again, all these decisions, all these actions at the federal and state level, it does have an impact on our local programs. So the last slide I do want to share with the board, this slide is based on the One Big Beautiful Bill, which, as we all know, has lots of impact, and it does, again, affect our education programs. Even though St. Helena and Unified is a basic aid district, we do get state and federal funds, and those funds are allocated based on our unduplicated student count. With One Big Beautiful Bill, with changes to Medicaid and SNAP, that will impact our funding. So for example, if you look at this list, the first three items are funding sources that we as a district receive. And so again, any decisions, anything that happens over at the federal and the state level ultimately impacts us at the local level. My big takeaway from this presentation was, again, lots of uncertainty. A healthy reserve will be critical in keeping our district afloat when funds are withheld. It will allow us to continue our programs. So I want to thank the board for supporting us in making sure that we have a healthy reserve, and when things happen, we have funds to fall back on, because that's what we're going to have to fall back on is our general funds. So that was the gist of her presentation and my takeaway from that. And then I think that was it for my presentation, right, Erica? Okay, so that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions?
Yes, well, not really a question, comment, but I would thank you for including that entire report, because it's loaded with information and allows us to have a really an awareness of the trickle down. And my takeaway is one of the slides even said is hope for the best but plan for the worst, because there's so much uncertainty. But I thank you for, I was really important, I think, that you shared that with us, because we can kind of keep chewing away at it and refer back to it, because it's got a lot of great information. So that's just a thanks.
Okay.
I was just going to ask, I guess on the last slide also, with the hope for the best but plan for the worst, for all those checklist items, I assume you have a dollar amount associated so that we could know at a certain point how big of a planning for the worst we might need?
Yes,
Okay,
I
thank
do.
you.
Is that something that maybe like Friday memo material or a budget update next month, that we could see some dollars attached to that? That would be, if that's whatever staff feels is appropriate.
Yeah, and I appreciate continuing a discussion on reserves. I know that is always on the mind of every board member as we make decisions for this district, so thank you. Okay. We will move on to item 10D, St. Helena Teachers Association report to the board. SHTA President, Mr. Lulsdorf.
Good evening, trustees. Hopefully you're having a nice day so far. So I just wanted to give a little update. It's always interesting with negotiations. You learn a few things, and one of the things that came up, I just wanted to give a little update on the online learning thing we talked about last board meeting. And thank you to Andrew for finding this. I guess the last time we updated our getting credit outside of our school was in 2008. So things have changed a lot about access to the kinds of classes that kids can find on the internet, so to speak. So I just don't want us to let that fall too much to the, too slow or take too long to address that, because it's kind of a thing that we probably should have been more aware of collectively before, and at least now we are. So I urge the board to be, due diligence on that issue. So, and I also just wanted to speak to some of the realities that that we've been seeing over the last few years with teachers. Over the last 5 years, teacher pay and wages have not really kept up. Actually haven't kept up with cost of living. District revenues have far exceeded the cost of living, and this always gives my fellow members some pause, and they wonder what's going on there. And so I urge the district to keep that in mind when what we're trying to accomplish in our negotiations. We're well aware that the district has financial situations that they have to deal with, but we believe that how we're approaching things gives the district that ability to do that. And what we're finding is over the last, when I first started teaching here, we had a number of teachers who lived in town. Now, I think that ship has sailed. I don't think anybody's going to be able to buy a house in St. Helena anymore. I was able to do that only because I qualified for Section 8 housing in St. Helena. A number of our other teachers who still live here are probably what I call legacy teachers. They had either parents who lived here or some kind of connection, but the rest of them who normally would have bought a house, that's long gone. I would like to try to keep them in the valley. I just think that benefits our students and benefits the teachers, everybody's work-life balance, everybody benefits from that. And we can see that despite all that happening, the environment that our teachers are creating at our schools, we have parents clamoring to get their kids to our school. We are the destination location in the valley. And I would argue the number one reason for that is our teachers. They're the ones who create that learning environment to make that happen. And I think that it's just really important to understand that's how we perceive things. So also, I noticed something about the reserve that I'm not trying to downplay the need for a reserve, but sometimes I hear what I say is a little too much fear-mongering. And what I mean by that is, oftentimes we say, oh, what if there's no property tax? There's two things in life that I know are certain: death and taxes. Unless a meteor hits St. Helena, we're never going to go to zero. And we've got other issues if that happens. So I would say, let's be real about the history of what we've seen in district revenues in this area. 23 years I've been here, I've seen what has happened with district revenues. There are going to be some tight years. We saw it in the Great Recession. We're possibly seeing it this coming year. But overall, short of some, disaster, and then we've got other fish to fry. Then we've got something else that's, meteor hits St. Helena. I think we've all got other priorities to deal with. So I would just say, let's just keep a little bit of a reality check on what the numbers are and what has happened in the past. That's all I urge. I'm not saying negate the idea or the need for a reserve, but just a little bit of, let's be a little careful with the what ifs, the extreme what ifs. So, and that's it for this evening. Thank you. I appreciate it. We also have I'm going to give President Simon a document from the teachers at the end before you guys go to closed session today. So I'll drop that off too. All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you.
10E, California School Employees Association, CSEA, report to the board. I would like to invite President, let me see, is he here? Who is here to represent tonight for CSEA? I didn't see. Okay, no report. Okay, we will move on. Items 10F, G, H, and I are the written reports from the site principals, and as always, we appreciate you compiling those for us and highlighting students and students' achievement and parent participation, so thank you very much. We will move on to board-related items. 11A, written report of the on the SHUSD residency audit 2025-2026. Take it away. Oh, actually, me. Just kidding. Okay, I would like to remind the board that this is a written report. Is there any public comment on this agenda item? Okay, do the trustees have any questions about this agenda item? No. All righty. Okay. 10B, written report on the District of Choice Program 2025-2026. I would like to remind the board that this is as well a written report. Is there any public comment on this agenda item? Do the trustees have any questions about this agenda item?
No, not at this time.
Okay. 11C, discussion on District of Choice and Interdistrict Transfer Agreement process. Dr. McClay.
Okay, we are bringing this forward out of a request from the board, as well as lots of staff inquiries, parent inquiries throughout the last year to have a little deeper understanding of the difference between a district of choice and an interdistrict agreement type district. I know for some of our board members, this information you already know, but I tried to include enough based on questions that we received from throughout the community as well. So as you as we go through these, we've got 4 objectives. We'll review the 2 primary models, and I say that intentionally. There are some other ways to do it, but I believe 99% of districts in the state of California use one or the other of these 2 models. So these are the 2 we'll focus on. We'll discuss some of the similarities and differences, pros and cons, and then next steps. And it may be that this topic just completely ends here for the year at the board's decision, or you may ask for us to bring it back in October or November, particularly if you would like to look at switching to a different model, okay? So a district of choice, just a quick reminder, is a district that has voluntarily chosen to accept a certain number of out-of-district students, meaning districts who live outside of the St. Helena Unified School District boundaries, through a state-mandated program. It's a very non-selective, very random admissions process, and you have seen Mrs. Madrigal up here, I believe with Mrs. Hanson, doing the drawings. It's very, very prescribed in a way that intentionally makes it very random, and that's a critical difference in this particular model versus an interdistrict agreement transfer model, and you'll hear this one referred to as IDA. So a lot of times you'll hear DOC versus IDA as if we don't have enough acronyms in our field, but these are 2 that you'll hear a lot of. This is the model where there's a formal agreement between a student's district of residence, so if they live outside of St. Helena, perhaps they would live in Santa Rosa, Calistoga, Napa, we would have an agreement with that district as to letting students come to our district from their home district. And there's certain things that can vary in those agreements. And so we'll talk about those as we go. But basically, this is another model that allows students who do not live within our boundaries to join our schools and be part of our campuses and our educational program. I'm not going to walk you through all of these because I think they're very obvious. They work very similarly. with the parent initiating them. The DOC, however, the parent initiates directly to us. In an IDA, they must go to their home district first, and so that will be another critical difference. Admission is also very similar, with the exception of, in a DOC model, it is random. We know very little about the student, usually the grade level and the name. And that's it. On an IDA, we would know a little bit more based on what the parent would fill out, and then whether or not we contacted the home district to get some additional information as well. Purpose is similar in both, to provide students with the ability to go to school outside of where they live. And oftentimes that's based on where a parent works. It can be based on childcare, grandparents helping with children, a variety of reasons. Sometimes parents want to do it simply because of a reputation, or it could be a specific program. I know when I was younger, I transferred schools at one point in my K-12 career because the receiving school had a class that I wanted to take that wasn't offered at my home school. And so that's another very common reason for an IDA transfer. And then approval. Approval in DOC is only required by the receiving district. In an IDA, it's required by both. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. The three biggest similarities that both allow a student to attend a public school outside their district of residence. Both are initiated by the parent or guardian to send their child to a school outside the residence. And transportation is generally the responsibility of the parent or the guardian under both models. Every once in a while, there's a unique circumstance where transportation might be provided, but for the most part, I would say in the high 90%, transportation is the responsibility of the parent if they opt to go to a school other than what would be deemed their neighborhood school. Key differences. I've already kind of hit upon them because I like to go quickly, and just give me the sign if I'm going too fast. The district of choice is we call it a one-way application. They're only applying to us because if we are the district of choice, they do not have to apply in their home district first, whereas in an inter-district agreement, they have to start in the home district. And in both models, though, and I get this question a lot, in both models, the receiving board, meaning us, would deem what the caps are. So it's not just a free-for-all. One model doesn't allow, thousands of students to come in. Either staff or the board. In the DOC model, the board sets the caps. In the IDA model, the staff can set the caps, or the board, as always, can say, we would really like to still set the caps. And for those watching, we set caps based on our facilities. How many classrooms do we have for that grade level? How many students are we comfortable with in each class? How many teachers do we have credentialed to teach that subject matter, that grade level, or that class? So we use all of that to determine or to recommend to the board what we think the caps would be. But caps would exist in both models. Admission, like I mentioned earlier, district of choice is a random lottery. There are some priorities given within the lottery, but there always have to be spaces available. In an inter-district agreement, like I mentioned earlier, we know a little bit more, or we would know a little bit more about the student because it is required on the application. We would also be able to, as it says here, we would know the parent's reasoning or rationale. They would check on the application why it was they were interested in coming to our district, and oftentimes that can provide information. And then it can also be denied for specific reasons, whereas we cannot and do not deny under the DOC model. Some of those examples for reasons, a special program that we have could be impacted, it could be full. We could have information on the student's previous behaviors, right? And so if behavior was a big issue in a previous district, then that would be a reason to deny. Same thing with attendance. If attendance is a big issue, oftentimes the receiving district would deny. Renewal, this is another difference. Once accepted under DOC, students remain with us through the entirety of their educational career or until the parent decides to take go elsewhere. So you could theoretically have a student come in. We didn't enroll DOC students this year in TK, but if we had, or we could use kindergarten as the example, once admitted, that student has the right to be here through their senior year and graduation of high school. Whereas in an IDA, interdistrict agreement, each agreement, and remember they can be negotiated a little differently with each district, but each agreement for a particular district would specify, for example, do we want that student to renew upon matriculation from each level? So like after second grade before going to third grade, or after fifth grade going to sixth. That's very common in IDAs. Another model that some districts still use in IDAs is to require a renewal every year. And so that is an opportunity for the team and staff to sit down and look at, is this working well? Are we meeting the needs for the child, and is the child thriving in this environment? So that's a key difference. And then funding. Funding is always a big question. So in a district of choice, state funding, or that really shouldn't say state, that should say our property tax funding. If funding follows the student to the receiving district, if the student is coming, so I guess that's why it says state funding, from a state-funded non-basic aid district. So basically, for those folks watching and saying, what on earth does that mean? In our case, if a student was coming from, say, a Napa Valley or Santa Rosa City Schools, a state-funded school district, then we would get a small amount of dollars following that student. If the student is coming from a basic aid district, community-funded district like we are, then funds would not come with that student. Whereas in an interdistrict agreement, this is where it gets, state-funded, non-basic aid districts, I think I'm getting tired, receive funding for their IDA students, but basic aid districts do not. So for us, I think the bottom line here is interdistrict agreement would mean $0. We would not receive any funding. Does that make sense? Okay. Thank you for bearing with me on that. I'm not going to read through all of these slides, but I will just highlight under DOC, the advantages, or if you want to look at it from a pro and con perspective, there's no requirement for home district permission, so that barrier is removed for families. There is a small financial benefit, again, if the students are coming from non-basic aid districts, and that dollar amount currently is about $2,000 per student. Some folks argue it is student-centric, meaning it is designed to be unbiased. There's no admission criteria. It's completely random. And then stability. Like I mentioned earlier, the student is typically able to remain in that status for the duration of their TK through 12 schooling. Cons or disadvantages. There are very few districts left doing DOC. Many have converted even as recently as the last 3 or 4 years because it is labor intensive, for one, and because of some of the other disadvantages that you'll see here. Application timelines, there's very strict windows and timelines throughout the entire process, and I have to give huge kudos to Mrs. Madrigal here because I think this becomes her life for many, many months, and she knows this process like the back of her hand. It is labor intensive, it is timeline intensive. Limited information, I've already alluded to a couple of times that the district receives very little information on a student. And I say that because as educators, we always want to ensure that we can best meet a child's needs. So the more we know about a child, the better able we are to match that child to a teacher, a program, a schedule, et cetera, to ensure the greatest chances for success. And then there's no appeal process in the DOC model. Once it's either approved or denied, that's it. There is no next step. You know, we get folks who say, well, what do I do now? Who do I appeal to? There is no appeal process under DOC. In IDA, like I mentioned, it's widely used throughout the state. Programmatic access, you can use it specifically to gain entry for a program. And it's nice for the receiving district to be able to know that that is the reason that the family is coming. It's also good information for the departing district to know that they may be losing students for a particular program. Student information, like I mentioned, we get more. We do have the ability to progress monitor and revoke a transfer under this model. This is considered a big advantage to many people, and by no means do I mean that to sound like, oh gosh, we would be running around trying to revoke transfers. That's not the business we're in. When students aren't being successful here, we look inward. We want to say, what more can we as adults do to make sure that the student is successful? But there are times, I would say, when you talk with other districts, they will usually say, yes, 1, 2, maybe 3 times over the last few years, we have revoked a transfer after exhausting many, many other measures. Really working with families, because we're not in the business of trying to get kids or having students go to multiple schools. Once they come, we would rather keep them. But at the end of the day, it's about making sure they're in the best environment for their success. Appeal process, there is a formal, very established process in an IDA model that goes to the county board, and that is one of the major functions of a county office board of education. They are considered an appellate board, and this is one of the things that they receive appeals for in their role. They function very differently than a traditional school board does. Both districts must agree. Folks see that as a disadvantage. It is one more hurdle for our families to have to go through. The home district can deny it, and the receiving district can never even see it if it's denied there, although the family can appeal that denial. So they can appeal it both sides. They can appeal the decision that the home district makes, and they can appeal the decision that the receiving district makes. And then renewals. Transfer agreements need to be renewed, like I mentioned, at certain points. There are folks who will argue that is an advantage to the model. I went ahead and put it where the majority see it, and that is, it's something that the family then has to worry about and remember to do at a certain point, either in between levels or annually. Regardless of the model, and this message is mostly for any folks who are watching out there. I know there's a lot of consternation around the topic of DOC, right? It brings a lot of anxiety and stress for folks. We saw it here, even when, folks were, please, please, please let my child's number be drawn, kind of a thing. If our board were to want to look at transitioning to an IDA model, we as staff would strongly recommend that we grandfather in our current DOC students. Again, we're not in the business of kicking children out, bringing strife to our families. We firmly believe they are a part of the St. Helena community and our schools, a valuable part. And so our recommendation would be, and I just want to assure the community, that if we look at transitioning to IDA, we would want to do that moving forward, but grandfather in our DOC students. Of course, that is ultimately your decision. And then next steps. Basically, we are here for questions, and then if you would like us to do any types of advertisements, community surveys, talking with people, getting more input from the community. Most folks see it as it's kind of a complicated process, but at the end of the day, they're both routes to allow a certain number established by the board or staff of students to join our district who don't live here. But if you are interested, we can go through those steps and or bring back an item for you to discuss further or vote on in October or November. It would need to be sooner rather than later, because it takes many, many months to, similar to DOC, IDA also, we would be looking to accept transfers. Typically, that's happening in January of a school year for the following year. So we would need to get a move on it. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. McClay. Is there any public comment on this agenda item? Okay. Do the trustees have any questions about this agenda item?
I have one question. You somewhat just answered it, I believe, but can IDAs, they can't happen at any time during the school year? There is a window, or can it?
So that's a great question, and I'm going off memory because I was IDA in my former district for many, many years. There are timelines, but those timelines in IDA are set by the district, so it's a little more flexible. And there are times when we would do an IDA. In fact, even right now, I believe we have a couple of students on an IDA that are arrangements with other districts for various reasons under Ed Code. So I don't want to say 100% have to be within that timeline.
Okay.
Because, for example, let's say a student were to move mid-year and have to, you know, we want to keep the students, so we would have them fill out an IDA. Sometimes if a family has been split and now they've come back together, there are options to do it outside of the window, unlike DOC, which I think is a little tighter.
Sure. And then is there, you mentioned, and I think most of the board is aware of this, of how labor intensive the DOC process is. And I'm gleaning from what you said and based on your professional experience that the IDA labor is less, easier, more, I'm curious to know how those weigh against each other.
In my experience, neither one are easy.
Okay.
And both are labor intensive.
Okay.
They both are labor intensive. They are different. And hence why, because we've had so many people ask, we just wanted to bring it forward. I think the first year of anything is always harder.
Yeah.
Right? But I can't say unequivocally that IDA would be a lot less labor. It is still labor intensive.
Okay. And then, I'm sorry, I have one last question. I know that I think our revenue for 24-25 for DOC was about $206,000. And this is not a question that needs to, because I know nobody's prepared for the answer to this. But I guess part of the conversation needs to be, if we switch models and our enrollment is not going to decrease, of course, what does that look like for our budget with a loss of $206,000? Again, I'm not asking, it's just a question to think about in this discussion of how that could be impactful budget-wise into sites and whatnot. So I'll leave it at that.
I actually have a question that could be, turn that comment into a question.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
we're on the same wavelength. So my question is, I mean, fiscal responsibility is a major responsibility of the school board. It is always on our mind. So I must ask, which transfer program do you think is a better financial decision for us?
Oh.
And I think about, the minimal costs that comes with credit that comes with children from Napa and Santa Rosa schools. But then I also consider, with IDA, we consider the needs of the students that come to our district. I don't know. Just something to process. I would love for you to come back to us with some theoreticals, maybe an example of 1 year, what it would look like to have 125 DOCs versus a couple example of student samples with needs and what that cost would look like and if it would cancel out the benefits of DOC.
And I think, short answer to your question, it depends on the year, because for those folks watching, it's not a straight profit of $200,000.
Okay.
There are a lot of costs, and that is one advantage to knowing more about the needs of the students we're getting to be sure that we can meet those needs. It's not that we're trying to save money in those cases. It's, do we have the staff? Do we have the programs? Do we have everything to meet all of the needs of our students, and still maintain the integrity of the programs for the students who are already here? So there are some years that, even though, and we did pull the numbers, so I'm glad that you asked that. Going back to 21-22, when the intake was about 131,000, then went up to 166, then went up to 232, and then it dropped this past year to 206. That's not straight profit. There are costs, and we can put together something to help you with that. It would vary on the year, and it would vary on the students coming in. So,
What
but we
did-
can show you.
I would appreciate that, but what kind of put my mind at peace a little bit was when you said if we decide to work with one transfer program for a year or two, and then we decide to go back to another one, that is something we can do. If we find that if we're still in DOC and it's not working for us, or if we switch to IDA and we decide maybe that wasn't the best decision for our particular district, we can go back to DOC.
And there's no,
Am I right? Okay.
Right, and there's no indication from the state about DOC sunsetting again. I mean, right? I mean, we always know that that's a ball in the air, if you will. So there's a potential that that could, I mean, we all thought it was going to.
2029 or 2028? What was the current?
Do you remember, Dr. Vang, when it was supposed to
Contract through?
currently sunset?
Not at the top of my head, but you
Okay.
are correct, because they keep going back and forth. It sunsets, then they, withdraw that, and then, so we've been going back and
Sure,
forth.
okay.
Okay. Any other questions?
I do.
Okay.
Oh, sure, okay. I did have a couple quick, I think it's a great presentation, thank you. I would love to see this get out into the hands of our community. I know people can watch tonight, but I remember there was a lot of questioning earlier this year about why aren't we taking more students and how does this work? And I think this does help people to understand, so thank you for that. There really wasn't a question, there was a comment. Okay, question though, am I remembering correctly with DOC, once names are selected, there's not really a wait list. So if we have 5 openings on August 19th because people changed their mind, even though there might be 5 people that didn't get in, we are not able to bring them in? Is that correct?
So, and Mrs. Madrigal truly is our expert here. I think you could write the book on this topic, but it is May 1st.
Okay.
So we do keep a wait list, basically up until May 1st. What we saw this year, though, interestingly, and I believe we've seen it in past years, but this year even more so, up until the day of. I mean, we had students coming, a student I know of one who came the day before school started to make sure all the paperwork was in, and then changed their mind on the first day of school. And that's always extra sad because we had someone on the wait list who could have taken that spot. But because it's after May 1st, we couldn't do that. Those timelines do not exist with IDA.
Okay, okay. And just for history lessons, you probably all remember, were we IDA at how many, when did we switch over? Is it?
2014? I think so.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
So I have a quick question. So I was also kind of questioning kind of the budget. So that's already been asked. So thank you for that. So my question would be the appeal process. How in your experience, how lengthy could that get, and how expensive could that also be? As far as just is it appeal with the county office, including attorneys and, okay, so it's
No.
just in-house, it's just an in-house.
In fact, interestingly enough, in my experience at the county office, I was able to experience those firsthand on the other side of the table as well. The appeal process is simple. I believe it's like a one-page thing. They have a certain number of days to appeal it. It goes to the county office. I will say, in my experience, that often the appeals are granted. I think it's common among educators that we want students and families to be where they want to be, right? When the parent is happy, the child is likely happy. And you don't want to hold people hostage in a school when they don't want to be there. And so I think in general, appeals, well, first of all, there aren't a lot of appeals. Okay. Once we set a cap, and even that is not appealable, so that denial. So I wouldn't anticipate a lot of appeals, but appeals typically are an easy process.
Okay, that's good, right, thank you.
I just wanted to comment on one thing about what your comment, Trustee Wolf, about people were saying, how come we're not taking more students? Because they're set by caps that we voted on. And I'm looking at the DOC report that we were given, and out of 131 applications, only 34 were denied across 3 grade levels. So to me, it's not a huge, 97 were accepted. So it all comes down to not the process, it's the caps on that. And I think regardless of what method we use, it comes down to what we put the enrollment caps on, whether we go, if we use IDA or DOC, neither really influences because the caps have been determined otherwise. Am I correct on my thinking there? I believe so. Okay, all right. I just wanted to make sure that that is clear, because otherwise it could impact what decision you make on what program to use.
Yeah.
So,
That's interesting, because I actually heard the question differently.
okay,
If we had 5 openings for DOC for the freshman class this year, and the 5 people said, I want to come, but then the week before school starts, 2 of those people say, I'm going to stay where I am, and on DOC, we can't let 2 people in. On IDA, we could. Okay. So, sorry, I actually heard something different, so thank you for asking that, yeah.
Oh, I was hearing 2 different.
Yeah,
okay.
2 different.
Okay. Any more questions?
You asked for feedback on community messaging, input opportunities. I guess the one I don't see here would be parent groups. I think we probably heard the most from parent groups recently.
So I guess my question for you is, do you want us to continue gathering information, gathering opinions, and bring this back to you in a formal vote? Do you want to talk about it next year? Do we want to put it away for 5 years? You tell me.
Well, I think we've had so many discussions about caps and DOC in the past, and if I'm reading the room with the board, I think we're happy as to where the work that we've done on this and where the caps are right now. I know this isn't a question about caps, but needing to include more input at this point. I don't.
You mean
I'm just kind of.
ask people about DOC versus IDA? Is that
Yeah,
what you're
that's
asking
what-
for?
I think it's more, do you want us to continue to kind of message this in preparation to bring it to you to make a decision in October or November? That you would either like to stay with, if we do nothing, we will obviously stay with DOC.
Yeah.
So we don't have to do anything. If you feel like you would like to formally switch or get more information to switch to IDA, then we need to know that.
So for me, I would like more information. I would be interested to see what, even if it's a survey that's 4 or 5 questions that goes out. I would be interested, because I think it's important to hear. I don't know if the staff, are we including staff in that survey? Is
Probably.
that, I think
I thought
it's
there was
beneficial to have a a lot of information to make a well-informed decision, is what, we had financial questions, which nobody's prepared to answer for us this evening, understandably. So, perhaps that's another piece of it as well. I don't know, I'm not sensing that we all feel like this is pressing and urgent, so maybe we bring it back in October. I don't, that we need to make a decision tonight by any means, so it's not an action item anyway, so.
I agree. I think more information. In speaking with you and learning more about it, I would lean toward IDA if someone asked me tonight. I know we don't get the money, but I remember having a conversation about a student new to our district through DOC who had a lot of special needs, which required us as a district, because we had an opening now, to spend a lot more money than we might have. I like the idea of knowing our students and not to be subjective. We don't want this student, but as you said, we did not really have the facility. We have to now go out and pay the expense. And I think, especially with us cutting budgets, if we have to pay XXX for aid to help with the student, does that kind of, balance out? I just like to explore more. And I feel like your professional experience is invaluable in having worked with IDAs. So I would appreciate more information and before making a decision. I mean, I think we should make a decision either way, but.
Right. On slide 10, you say staff strongly recommend that current DOC students be grandfathered in under DOC rules and regulations. Were there any other questions that were asked to staff that we know about? Or was it just about that?
I think we did a staff survey a few years ago.
Yeah, right.
We did. I don't know how many
DOC
years ago,
versus-
but there was a survey sent to staff.
Okay. So what I'm saying, let's look that up,
We can
because if
find
it
it.
was,
Okay.
if it was 2 years ago, I don't know how,
Okay.
what new information we would,
Right.
unless Mr. Lilsdorf would like to bring that back to,
Okay.
or we bring it to the staff.
Okay.
Okay.
So we'll gather more information.
Okay.
Wait, because you said we sent out a staff to,
Yeah.
we sent out a survey to staff?
Yeah.
I believe so.
Asking if they have if there was a preference
If
for.
there was a preference. and
I
if there
know
was a
we received
recommendation.
feedback,
So what
yeah,
I'm saying is-
I
so,
don't know who sent it. but
so
I
here's
remember.
what my recollection is, we received as a board through, community groups and forums in the superintendent search process. And a lot of comments in those were talking about declining enrollment. And there were a lot of comments about staff supporting an IDA model over DOC. That's what I remember. I don't remember an official survey going out asking staff, but maybe do some research. I see some heads in the audience nodding that we did not provide a survey asking that. So that's kind of what I remember, is reading those comments in that, when the search firm would do those community events kind of thing.
So the request could be to see what we can find, for the last 3 years.
I mean, I think,
Just so we don't have to revisit some things, if not necessary.
right, I mean,
Okay.
yeah, I think that's, any other,
Okay.
okay.
All right, we're going to do 11D and E, and then we will take a comfort break. Does
Okay.
that sound good? Okay. 11D, adoption of Resolution 25-10 against bullying, harassment, discrimination, and violence. And I'd like to call on Dr. McClay. Would you like me to? Sorry, that's,
My microphone's not on. There we go. As you know, the month of October, do we have it up? There we go. There we go. Perfect. Is National Bullying Prevention Month to raise awareness on bullying, provide schools the opportunity to educate our students, our parents, and others about the role in bullying prevention. That is the key. And we are committed and are actively engaged in preventing bullying throughout the district. We are excited to ask our student representative for the first time to read Resolution 25-10. Student Representative Martinez, would you give this a go?
Yes, of course. Resolution 2510 of the St. Helena Unified District against bullying, harassment, discrimination, and violence for the school year 2025-2026. Whereas St. Helena Unified School District reaffirms its commitment to ensuring that all students and staff have the right to attend schools that are safe, inclusive, and free from bullying, harassment, discrimination, and violence. And whereas a secure and nurturing school environment characterized by both physical and emotional safety is fundamental for the thriving of academic achievement and personal growth for all students and staff. And whereas bullying, harassment, discrimination, and violence, as well as the fear of such harm, have adverse effects on learning, contribute to low self-esteem, depression, feelings of isolation, anger, and in the most severe cases may lead to school violence or suicide. And whereas an effective learning environment is one where distractions are minimal, drug violence and fear are absent. No student is subject to discrimination. Behavioral expectations are clearly articulated, and consequences for misconduct are informally and equitably applied. And whereas establishing safe and inclusive school environments requires all-encompassing, coordinated effort that includes school-wide, district-wide, and community-wide strategies in which all entitles and individuals recognize and act upon their vital roles in establishing and maintaining a positive climate for teaching and learning. And whereas the month of October continues to be recognized as National Bullying Prevention Month, providing schools and communities the platform to raise awareness and educate students, parents, and the broader community about their respective roles in preventing bullying. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the St. Helena Unified School District endorses the objectives of National Bullying Prevention Month for the school year of 2025-2026. The board commits to collaborating with a diverse array of local community stakeholders, parents, students, teachers, and staff to review, develop, implement, and monitor policies and programs that nurture and sustain a school climate that is free from bullying, harassment, discrimination, and violence. Adopted this 11th day of September 2025 at a regular meeting by the following vote: yes, noes, absence, and abstained.
Thank you very much.
Well done.
Okay. Is anyone participating who wishes to comment on this agenda item? Do the trustees have any questions about this agenda item? Is there a motion to approve the adoption of Resolution 25-10 as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Andy, would you like to cast a preferential vote?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion carried. 10E, request to accept gifts, donations, or earmarked funds. And I'd like to call on Vice President Pelosi.
Thank you, President Simon. Okay. The board is asked to accept, hold on, there we go. With gratitude, the following donations. St. Helena High School has received the following donations totaling $12,340. $2,875 from Jerry and Michelle Hyde for the 2025 Scholarship Fund. $5,000 from the First Presbyterian Church, also for the 2025 Scholarship Fund. $1,000 for the Upper Valley Republican Women for the 2025 Scholarship Fund. $1,500 from Azteca Market and Taqueria 2025 Scholarship Fund. $250 from Monique Davis for the Drama Department. $250 from Bauer Chiropractic for FFA. $250 from John Perroy, I hope I said your name correctly, for FFA. $700 from Carmen and Gail Policy for the football program. $515 from Claudia Beck from the football program. As always, we are very grateful and appreciative of all donations that we receive on behalf of our students. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We are going to take about a 5-minute break, and we will be
Finish
gotta do
public
the
comment and
motion. I'm just so eager. Is there anyone present who wishes to publicly comment on this agenda item? Do the trustees have any questions about this agenda item? Is there a motion to approve the gifts, donations, or earmarked funds as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Andy, would you like to cast a preferential vote?
Yes.
Great. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion carried. Okay, we'll be back in about 5 minutes. Thank you. welcome back. We're going to continue with student learning and achievement. 12A, public hearing on the sufficiency of instructional materials and Williams Settlement instructional materials, and adopt Resolution 25-8. Okay. The public hearing for the sufficiency of instructional materials and Williams Settlement. Yes. Thank you. Mr. Heller.
Thank you. Good evening, trustees. Tonight's resolution and public hearing align with California Education Code 60119 and the Williams Act settlement to ensure that each pupil in our district has been issued a curriculum that meets state achievement standards. The attached documents are the certifications from the curriculum distribution as reported by the school site librarian and verified by each principal at that site. Some of the curricula you'll see provided to our primary and elementary students show the issuance of consumables, consumable materials aligned with state standards, and most of our textbooks have web-based platforms that also allow students to access them. So I would at this time request the board conduct a public hearing and then approve the adoption of the resolution to certify the information provided tonight is in alignment with the Williams Act.
Okay, the public hearing for the sufficiency of instructional materials and Williams Settlement is now open at 7:50 p.m. Comments during this public hearing should be limited to the sufficiency of instructional materials and Williams Settlement. It is our goal to hear from all who wish to be heard. We now invite members of the audience to address the Board of Trustees on the sufficiency of instructional materials and Williams Settlement. Now I hit the gavel. Public hearing is now closed at 7:51 p.m. Do the trustees have any questions about the sufficiency of instructional materials and Williams Settlement? No. Is there a motion to approve the adoption of Resolution 25-8 as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Andy, would you like to cast a preferential vote?
Yes.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion carried. 12B, written report on 2024-2025 school year student discipline. Mr. Heller.
Yes, normally this is a written report that would just be provided to the board, but I did want to provide some clarity. There were some data discrepancies that we went back and worked with staff on to better understand what occurred to provide numbers that didn't align with what was reported by each of the sites. So you could see the changes there are provided in the highlights, indicating a few in-house suspensions that occurred in 21-22 and 22-23, and also reducing the suspension total that was provided in 22-23 that was 61 down to 49. Some of the reason for that has been some internal work that we've been doing within Aries to modify some of our codes and better provide clarity in suspensions, because sometimes students would be suspended, and when administrators check the reasons why, sometimes there's more than one reason. And so what we just, and that came to light for us in 22-23, and that's why that number appeared as 61, because one suspension may have counted 1 or 2 or 3 times. So we went back through and looked at that number a little bit closer, and then realized the total was actually 49. And then, as I recall, and Ben probably has a recollection of this, I believe we went back through and did some work on that in that particular year to identify just the main reason for suspension to be the one that's coded in the future, and that's why you could see the totals that have gone down. So that hopefully provides a little background and it was a good catch for us to remind ourselves that we did make that change within Aries moving forward. And we have a number of different platforms that we use between Aries and CalPads and Data Zone, which we use for data, and sometimes they don't all integrate seamlessly. And so as we run different reports through different programs, we sometimes discover that we get different numbers. So that also has allowed us to kind of take a look at some of our internal systems to make sure they're speaking to one another to report the same data. So I submit this report to you, and I would be happy to answer any questions about the numbers.
Thank you. Is there any public comment on this agenda item? Do the trustees have any questions about this agenda item?
I do not know. No? So I just want to make sure, so only 1 year was impacted by double counting students that had multiple suspension reasons?
That 1
Or
year
I guess 2021, 2022, and then the year after, both of those, anything that was in yellow?
in yellow, yes, correct.
Okay. And then going forward, in areas we flag, or whatever the system is, the main reason for the suspension, and then we also flag secondary reasons? Or did you stop flagging secondary?
They will be flagged, they'll be in there, but
Main
on
one
a
is what will show
subsequent
up.
document that I have, it really shows the main reason,
Okay,
the main reason why a student was suspended.
okay.
What warrants an in-house suspension versus an at-home suspension?
Well, I can have
Yeah.
Mr. Ryan speak to that because he's issued the most in-house.
Sorry to hear that.
But typically, it would be the nature of the infraction, depending on the severity, and every situation in discipline is different. And so it's up to administrator interpretation after doing their investigation and fact-finding to determine what the appropriate level of discipline is. Sometimes it can be solved by a Saturday school. Sometimes it could be solved by an in-house suspension, and sometimes, due to the nature of the infraction, it does require an out-of-school suspension.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. By most, I think what Assistant Superintendent Heller means is by comparison, there's not a ton of them in quantity. But what would warrant, there isn't, to my knowledge, there's not like a dividing line that says like this is an in-school suspension and this is an out-of-school. Well, I should say there are some things that would require an at-home suspension. But where we try at the middle school, and what my experience that I came here, so that's really the best of my ability, is that one of the worst things we can do, statistically speaking, for student learning is to send them home. There's retention, they're sending them home. And I understand, I've suspended students, you can see that. So it happens, and sometimes it's necessary. But whenever possible, to have the lesson learned, but have the consequence be something that's also restorative, where they can also access their teachers, where they can also access the library, whatever need be, and they're still under our watch, and there's still a degree of a consequence, I would prefer to do that. And so that's something we've tried to do the last 2 years. We haven't crossed that bridge this year. And so for instance, I went through, knowing this was going to be up here, I kind of went through areas the last 3 years and looked at some of ours. So if it's got to be multiple day, I might make a decision to say, okay, well, the second day is going to be in-school suspension, or the first day, and we're going to do a restorative lesson with you and work with Sandra or Up Valley or Mr. Samuels, and we'll put something together. If it's the first time, let's say they're moving, maybe it didn't get physical, but it was getting close to that. There was like a shove or something. That might be something that I would do an in-school for. But it is a bit case by case. It does depend on the investigation and what details come out. Sometimes it also did, what intent, what were the students trying to do versus what actually happened. So there's a variety of cases, but or purposes, but trying to keep them in school would be
the number one. Yeah.
I have a quick question, kind of, this is just informational for me, probably Principal Cinto, and you can answer. If a student is at home in a suspension, can they access the work they're missing? Are they sent home with, here's what you're supposed to do? And are they responsible when they come back to be up to date with whatever classes they missed?
So I can speak for RLS. Yes, there's an internal mode of using or agreement to use Google Classroom. So there's a standard way of using Google. For those of you who have students go through it, probably post-COVID, you've seen that. They go home and we tell them, we expect you to access this. We expect you not to fall behind. Now, that's part of the gamble you run sending them home is, if they're like my wife and I, we work, nobody's there. I'm not going to put them subject to my mother. That would be a whole different type of consequence. But I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Okay, I would let my mom watch my kids. She does. So yes, we expect them to make it up. And that we do usually have a confidential communication with the teachers to let them know not the purpose, but the fact that it happened. And so you might be getting an email from the student, something like that.
Thank you.
The only thing I would add to that is we're legally required to provide student coursework during a suspension. That changed probably about 5 years ago, but it's because the school is removing the child from the educational environment, and not that they're choosing. We're required to make sure that they have access to their current level of work. And learning management systems, as Mr. Ryan has already said, allow that to happen at a much easier rate.
Okay, thank you.
Just to be fair, high school is different than middle school. And so, you're probably going to see more traditional suspensions at a high school, in my experience and in conversations trying to calibrate with the high school and whatnot, than middle school. They're younger, they're learning. High school, there is a degree of maturity that we would expect. So, yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Principals Ryan and Cinto. Appreciate
I'd
your
also
input.
just add, if you guys want to cut
Yes.
that suspension rate in half, I think we would consider hiring Andrew's mother.
No.
So, okay.
She could
Couldn't
stay
let
at
you
the
off the hook on
RLS.
that one, Andrew. I couldn't let you off the hook.
She could be at the RLS every day. Okay. Alrighty. I have lost my place. I apologize. It's just,
Mr. Heller's fault.
yeah.
It is.
Exactly. Okay. I'm sorry. Okay. Oh, yeah, because that was a written report. Okay, now we're going to move on to 12, wait, I'm sorry, did we just? On 12C, here we go. Okay, 12C, written report on hate-motivated behavior for school year 2024-25. I'd like to remind the board that this is a written report. Is there any public comment on this agenda item? Do the trustees have any questions about this agenda item?
No, I did not.
Okay. 12D, consideration of approval of the revised reclassification criteria 2025-2026, and I'd like to call on Mrs. Romo Flores.
Good evening, Dr. McClegg and Board of Trustees. I am going to be presenting the revised reclassification criteria to you. So just as recently as February 2025, you approved a revised reclassification criteria because we opted to put in the OPTEL most recently. But then now that we've switched over to the STAR assessment, we had to bring this back to you because previously we had MAP as one of the part of the criteria for the comparison of basic skills. And so because we are no longer using MAP, we're using STAR and would like to use the STAR for the reclassification criteria, but we can't do that unless the board approves it, the revised reclassification criteria. So this is why we're bringing it to you once again.
Is there anyone present who wishes to comment on this agenda item? Do the trustees have any questions about this agenda item? Great. Is there a motion to approve the revised reclassification criteria for 2025-26 as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Andy, would you like to cast a preferential vote?
Yes.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Lisa, okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those
Aye.
opposed say no. Motion carried. 12E, presentation on SHUSD Professional Development 2025-26. Mrs. Romo Flores.
Okay, so now I'm going to be sharing how we are learning as a team. We are participating in a lot of professional development in order to meet our LCAP Goal 1 of increasing academic growth for all students while addressing the achievement gap. And so I'd like to use this analogy because why professional development matters. When we're on a plane and there's an aviation emergency, hopefully it never happens, but they always tell us that we have to first put on our own oxygen masks before we can help others. And so that's kind of true with professional development as well. It's really important for us as educators to have a perpetual sense or desire to learn. And so we have to continue to expose ourselves to new methods, new practices, new strategies, build our repertoire, and that's a requirement, right? As a continuous improvement, we have to also improve as adults. And so in order to meet the needs of our students, we are providing professional development for all of our staff. So as I mentioned, this is our LCAP goal that we're trying to accomplish. Oh, thank you. Okay, and so, as a leadership team, Dr. McClay is leading us in a book study, and so we are reading Good to Great by Jim Collins. And one of the things that he mentions from the get-go is that's really important to go from good to great, you have to confront your brutal facts. And so, yet never lose faith. And I think that's totally what we're doing, is we're really looking at our data as a team and, really just taking it for what it is, right? It's where we are right now. It's not where we're going to stay, but it's where we are right now. We have to acknowledge that. And so, just calling out that we have an achievement gap and that we're not where we want to be with our English language proficiency on the CASP and or even in our math scores. And so calling that out, that we have a lot of students in red, and so why is that? We need to get to the root cause of why that is and try to address that. And so that's why we're really focusing on some professional development for ourselves, really doing a deep data analysis, as you all experienced at our last board study session, and then also just trying to determine, like, what do we need as a staff to be able to meet the needs of our students. So we are there's a lot of collaborative professional development, and we're really trying to move as a district to shift from passive learning to active learning and focus on peer-to-peer collaboration and coaching. And I'm going to give you some examples of how we're doing that. So key professional learning community initiatives to improve student outcomes. We're doing a lot of professional learning teams. So we have grade level teams, we have content area teams where we're really diving into those 4 questions. And then we have instructional coaching and professional development. So evidence that SHUSD is a professional learning community is, there's a lot going on in terms of supporting learning for adults, and some of the examples are our district kickoff that you heard about earlier. We were introduced to, some of us were introduced to AI, and we had that experience together of really seeing the possibilities that it provides for our own professional development. And we have professional learning teams, as I mentioned. We have PLTs at every single site. We have grade level PLTs. We have content area PLTs. We have instructional leadership teams at every single site to share the leadership and to plan together, learn together. We have a math task force. We have a every school site has a multi-tiered system of support team, but this year we're starting a district tiered system of support task force to build coherence, to make sure that we have systems in place for all of our schools. And we have a multilingual learner task force. We have a special education task force, student experience committee that we're excited about because hopefully we're going to get some information about root causes for some of the student experiences out there. And we have a technology committee that is rebooting this year, and business operations committee, LCAP steering committee, and leadership team. Is this, like I mentioned before, reading good to great together, so we're doing our own professional learning together as a team at the leadership meetings. And instructional coaching, we also have professional learning teams, because really instructional coaching happens within the PLCs. There's a lot of shared strategies, a lot of conversations about best practices, and so that happens in our PLCs. And also we have math coaches that are supporting teachers with really moving away from passive mimicry in math to active thinking with BTC strategies that are the strategies that are called out in the math framework. So we have two coaches that have really supported that. And then we have teachers on special assignment that also support teachers in whatever areas they need support in. And then I've this year had an opportunity to do some training at RLS. I trained some of the teachers. Mr. Ryan asked if I would train some of his staff over the summer, did that, and then I got the experience of being able to model some lessons in a class. And so trying to really make sure that we are really focusing on student learning versus teaching. And then professional development, we have a lot of new platforms this year. So as I mentioned before, we switched from MAP to Renaissance. And so we've had 2 sessions now where all teachers have been trained in the STAR assessment, how to administer it, how to read the reports. We're going to have another one to learn about the adaptive platforms that come with Renaissance. We have Elevation, which is a platform that is used to monitor our English learners and our reclassified fluent English proficient students. And we have Multitudes, which you are familiar with because you approved it last year. But Multitudes is the reading difficulty screener that K2 must implement this year for the first time. So teachers are going to be trained on how to use that, implement that, because we will be administering it soon. And we have the math framework that we have to, we want to introduce our teachers to the math framework and get them familiar with that. So that's in the plan. We have Teach Town, which is a new SDC supplemental curriculum that our special day class teachers are using, and so we provided training for them on that. And the OpTel, which is the new, we implemented it last year. We had kind of a soft start, but we are providing training for teachers on how to implement the observation protocol for teaching of English learners. And so that's already happened at some sites. I believe I did it at RLS last year, and I'm going to be doing it at the other sites this year. And the California Principal Support Network, the CAPS, that's where we take our team of our ILT teams to learn about improving our PLC process. So we're participating in that professional development. We are participating, the high school's participating in Solution Tree Consulting. They're working with consultant Brandon Amy, Dr. Amy, who is supporting them with the PLC process. So really tailoring it to the high school needs, because we all know that the high school really is a different beast, right? It's a much more complex system. And AVID conference, we participated in the summer AVID conference. We also this year have to do the second layer of our AVID training, which is we take the district AVID leadership team to the to the AVID conference for the 3rd session. There's 4 required sessions, and this is our year 3. And let's see. The response to intervention RTI at work. We're going to be taking some of our members to the RTI conference in Sacramento because as I mentioned before, we are starting the initiative of having a district MTSS committee this year. And so it's really exciting that we're going to be taking some of our classroom teachers. Last year we took more of our SCL side of the house folks to the conference, and this year we're taking some of our classroom teachers because we really want to focus on our Tier 1 instruction. And then last but not least, the California Association of Bilingual Education Conference. And this isn't all-inclusive. There's going to be other things coming up, but I just wanted to give you a taste of some of the things that we're doing. So we're really busy. All of it's very intentional. Really excited about the learning opportunities that we have and excited about a lot of these new platforms and initiatives because we really believe that it's going to make a difference. And next steps, we're going to use our STAR assessments to monitor students' progress throughout the year, and we're going to use that data to plan next steps. And I just put in Jim Collins' quote there because we must be fanatically driven, infected with an incurable need to produce results. And so we need to keep looking at our data and trying to get that needle to move in the favor of our students. Any questions?
Is there any public comment on this agenda item? Do the trustees have any questions about this agenda item?
I don't know if I really have a question, but I was going to say that's a lot of really great resources I'm seeing there. So that's great.
And that was my comment as well. And thank you very much for the presentation and sharing this with us. Thank you.
I'm just curious with our shift with one of our math coaches as interim principal, how her duties have changed in regards to supporting in math.
She doesn't want to give up math.
Okay.
Do you want to talk?
I'm just curious. Yeah, if you don't mind coming to the podium, I was just going to put you on the spot. I was curious how you juggle both responsibilities.
Well, getting in classrooms is my ultimate priority, so I have already scheduled from day one getting in there. So for the first few weeks, I've been getting around to all classrooms at least twice a day, and starting this week, I started my regular coaching schedule at the elementary school, and with a little creative thinking and collaboration with Rebecca, I'm hoping to also get over to the primary school at some point.
Great.
So.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, any other questions? Okay.
I'm assuming then the first time we'll just get a glimpse at STAR results would be obviously the start of next school year.
No.
No?
No, so really excited because we're going to be able to give you the mid-year LCAP report. We can give you
Oh,
some of
great.
the,
I apologize if I should have known that, but I did not remember
no, you
it.
wouldn't
So,
have known that. No,
okay.
I didn't even share that. But that was, so I created an assessment schedule, calendar for the whole district. And so we have our times when we have our windows where we're going to be assessing and looking at the data. And one of them was built in so that I could make sure to present that to you at the mid-year LCAP review.
Great. Thank you. And I want to also compliment you and thank you for the information and to, to help all of us understand that, looking at data is not a bad thing. It's just what we need to do. And so I really appreciate you helping to push that. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. We'll move on to human resources. 13A, consideration of approval for a variable term waiver for a credentialed teacher. Mr. Heller.
Yeah, so a little background here. This year we have added a member to our certificated staff who previously worked under the Napa County Office of Education Career Technical Education Program. Under those preliminary CTE credentials, the authorization permitted her to teach, but it did not provide authorization to teach English learners. So now that she has joined our district staff, she's enrolled in a Certificate of Completion of Staff Development, a CCSD, with the target completion date for this English learner requirement of December of 2025. So until that CCSD is obtained, she may continue to teach with the approval of this waiver, and this waiver extends all the way through the end of the school year in case something were to change as far as her completion date. So I'd ask that you would approve it.
Okay. Is there anyone present who wishes to comment on this agenda item? Do the trustees have any questions about this agenda item? Is there a motion to approve the variable term waiver for Brenda Gibbon as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion carried. Business operations, 14A, approve school-connected organizations per board policy 1230, school-connected organizations. Dr. Vang.
Thank you. So I have been working with the principals, and I'm bringing forward school-connected organization checklists, basically applications for our school-connected organizations such as boosters, parent groups. And so for this month, I believe I have all except the elementary school and the primary school booster checklist. However, they have submitted that, so you'll see that on the October board agenda. Today, I do have the middle school and the high school checklists, along with the SAA. So these are the checklists. As the board, these organizations exist with your approval because they are here to fundraise on behalf of our students, and the funds that are raised are to go back to the students. Therefore, as the district, as the board, it is our responsibility to ensure that we are monitoring and providing oversight for the funds that have been raised and how they are being spent. And so each organization submitted a packet that not only includes their budget for their year, but also insurance, taxes, and it is my understanding that starting this year and moving forward, the school parent groups will be folded under the foundation. So what you'll notice is that it's the foundation's insurance that is provided for the site parent groups. And the fundraising that happens, funds that are raised through the foundation will be distributed to the sites. So I am asking that the board approve the School Connect organizations. And then, like I said, I have a couple more that I'll be bringing forth to the board next month. Thank you.
Great. Is there anyone present who wishes to comment on this agenda item? Do the trustees have any questions about this agenda item?
I don't.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve school-connected organizations per Board Policy 1230, school-connected organizations as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Andy, would you like to cast a preferential vote?
Yes.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion carried. 14B, review and consider approval of the 2024-25 unaudited actuals report. Dr. Vang.
All right, thank you. So the unaudited actuals report for last school year, 24-25 school year. Right now I'm presenting the unaudited actuals. I'm working with my team on providing our auditors with the end of the year audit request items. Once that is completed, I will present the audited financial report in December. You can see the budget cycle, including the unaudited actuals, which I will be presenting today. So in this report, I will include not only unrestricted funds, but restricted funds. Our unrestricted funds are the most flexible funds that we will spend first, and then our restricted funds are those that are least flexible, and that would be your examples would be Title I funds, state lottery funds. Together, both the unrestricted and restricted funds make up general fund, which is Fund 01. Our spending strategy, and you've heard me say this before, is to always spend our most restricted dollars first. That would be like all of our title funds, our lottery, and then we would spend our unrestricted funds because those funds are a bit more flexible. Looking at the big picture of our unaudited actuals for last school year, we start off with a beginning balance of a little over $19 million. We spent 49 in, we received over 49 million in revenues. We spent over 45 million in expenditures, and had an excess of revenue of about 3 million. However, we also had some other uses where we had to either contribute to other funds or we had to transfer out. So that 5.3 million, if you recall, the board had approved 5 million to be transferred from general fund to Fund 40 for capital outlay projects, and that was specifically one of the big projects was the primary school roof and dry rot project. And then every year at the end, when I close the books, I will also journal $300,000 from general fund to Fund 14, which is the deferred maintenance fund, and that is also board approved. And then with our one-time dollars, food service dollars spent, we had to make a contribution of a little over $47,000 to Fund 13. And again, our one-time dollars for food services have been fully spent. We do not have any remaining one-time dollars. We are now back to just earning our revenues based on our meal reimbursements. So it's critical that we get our students to eat so that we can, every meal that we serve is reimbursable. Even with that, with the one-time dollars gone, we're back to the days of contributing to Fund 13 to keep our cafeteria funds afloat. So that leaves us, after the 5.3 million contribution or transfers out, that leaves us with a decrease in our fund balance, and that's about 2.2 million decrease. So our overall ending fund balance is about 17 million. Please keep in mind that fund balance protects programs and employees. And however, fund balance, there's a difference between fund balance and cash. Cash is king. Cash is what's actually in the bank, so that we can pay our day-to-day bills and our salaries and keep the lights on. So moving on to the next slide, I want to break down this 17 million for the board. We have sitting in non-spendable 20,000 in revolving cash and 7,500 in prepaid items, and that was one of our software licenses that we needed to renew for this year, and we had to do a prepay on that. Restricted funds, of that 17 million fund balance, 2.5 million is restricted, and on the bottom you can see the restricted resources. So these are resources, funds that we get, but they are specific, so these are restricted. Earlier when I talked about unrestricted versus restricted funds, these are restricted. So even though the 2.5 million is included in our fund balance, they're not unrestricted fund balance. So that leaves us with an assigned balance of 12.9 million, and of that 12.9 million, we have our board reserve, our two board reserve policies at 10%. Let me go right here. A 10% on the bottom here, a 10% of general fund expenditures, and then the second board reserve policy is 33% of excess property taxes. And I'll come right back to that, but I do want to finish this slide. So our reserve for economic uncertainties is the minimum requirement that the state requires us to set aside, and that's a 1.5 million. 3%, if you recall, I've shared this before with everyone, 3% is about 2 weeks worth of salaries. And so our 3% right now is calculated at a 1.5%.
Say that last one part again.
No.
Just say that again. The last sentence. What's calculated at 1.5%?
1.5 million.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, did I say percent? 1.5 million,
Okay.
yes. So that 3% equates to about 1.5 million.
Thank you. Okay.
Sorry about that. All right, now to the next slide. In reviewing our reserve, again, 3% equates to about 1.5 million. And then in Fund 17, we also have about 3.7 million sitting in Fund 17. So again, back to the two board reserve policies. The first one is that 10%. So if you calculate 10% of general funds, it's approximately 5.1 million. So taking our Fund 17, that $3.7 million, and Fund 01, that gives us our first board policy reserve of 10%, so we're meeting that. Looking at our second reserve policy, which is 33% of excess property taxes, that would be approximately $9.2 million. We are not meeting this secondary reserve policy, our goal, because we are actually at 6.2 million, so we're short about $3 million. So overall, taking our general fund reserves, looking at Fund 17, our overall reserve is about 25%. And if you recall, school SF Square recommends that for basic aid districts of our size and for a unified basic aid district, our reserve should be at least 30%, 30.16% to be exact. And so obviously we are slightly below that recommended reserve. So cash flow, our projected cash flow is 17.4 million. Again, cash, the county has not closed cash for June, for the month of June. One of the things that I've shared with the board is knowing that because we're in basic aid district, we get our two main pots of property payout in December and in April. So by November, our funds are running pretty low. This year, we were able to have a November cash balance of 5.7 million. However, in the prior years, it's been much lower, and so I'm always very cautious in monitoring our cash flow, especially right before we get our December property taxes. And again, a strategy is any big expenses, we usually save those until after December, and then we make those payments. So my recommendation and next steps, I would hope that the board would approve the 24-25 unaudited actuals report. Once approved, I will forward the report to the Napa County Office of Ed, who will then forward it to California Department of Education. Also, the district's auditors will get a copy of this as it's needed for our end of the year audit, so that I can bring that report back to you in December. And my next step in preparation for the first interim, which I will present to you in December, I will use this data to update the budget that was created for this school year, so that when I do come back to you in December with the first interim, you'll have updated numbers. And that concludes my 24-25 unaudited actuals report. Are there questions?
Is there anyone present who wishes to comment on this agenda item? Do the trustees have any questions about this agenda item?
I do, but I think, so, not about your data, but I think it's just a timing question. The slide 7, which was the reserves, this was as of the end of the school year, last school year.
Correct.
So we did not yet pay for the primary school, correct?
Primary school funds have already been moved into Fund 40, and they're
Okay.
sitting in Fund 40. Project is completed. We still have some outstanding invoices
Right.
that we'll need to pay, but that
Okay.
fund has been set aside.
Okay. Thank you.
And that's why you see that negative 5.3 million.
Right, thank you.
Any other questions?
Actually, that was my question as well. So, look, so once we pay that, then that negative 5 million, that'll go, I mean, that was just the transfer, but it is sitting in our reserve account, or it's in the fund, in
It's in
the.
Fund 40,
in Fund
capital
40.
outlay.
So once we pay, then it'll take out. Yeah, okay.
I have a hypothetical with our next summer's project at the elementary school, which we know at this point will cost us at least 5.5. Where are we going to pull from? What are,
So if you look at this slide on the 1, 2, 3, on the third row where it says assigned, you have the 12.9 million. Erica, can you please bring up the Form 01? Great question, President Simon. So on Form 01, on page, I believe it's on page 4. And if you can zoom in. Thank you. So that 12.9 million, scroll down just slightly, perfect right there, thank you. 12.9 million, that 7.5 is, 7.5, I had reviewed that as the two reserve goals that the board has. And then I've also set aside 5 million because that was, the board had already approved that for the elementary school re-roofing and HVAC. So that's why you see that 5 million set aside there. And then the 342,000, that is restricted because that is part of, it's unrestricted lottery funds, but these are funds that can only be spent on instructional materials and supplies. You can't take these and spend them on capital outlay or anything else. So that's the breakdown for the 12.9 million that has been assigned.
okay. Thank you.
Good question.
Okay, any other questions?
No, thank you, Dr. Vang.
Okay. Just wait. Trustee Kerr, look like you may have a question. You're good? No? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the 2024-25 unaudited actuals report as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Andy, would you like to cast a preferential vote?
Yes.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion carried. Future agenda items, 15A. Do the trustees have any subjects for future agenda items?
I do not at this time. I do not at this time.
I have a request. I was curious if we could move business operations sooner during the higher, cannot speak tonight. If we could move it closer to the beginning of the meeting, I noticed that we have more community and staff members here. And I think given our extended list of projects and issues we have in the district with our facilities, it would be nice if we could, more people could hear the information that attend the meeting. I think this audits report, it would have been nice if we could have had this conversation earlier.
It's fine with me, since we're outside the December organizational meeting. Do we have board consensus?
Yes.
It makes great sense.
Okay.
Okay, we can do that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, one last call for any future agenda items or comments, questions? Okay. All righty, it's favorite time of the board meeting.
No, not quite. We're going to go into closed session. and we'll come back out.
Not quite.
Right. Oh, it's,
So
okay.
you'll be back out here to close.
We will be back out here to close, and I'm sure we will see everybody in the audience when we come back. Just hold tight.
It's okay, because I thought I was going crazy too.
Okay. All righty, we got,
Just say that
we have the thumbs up. So, okay, so we are at a, okay, so we've come back from closed session, and
in conjunction with item 4.
in conjunction with item 4A, we
Provided staff with direction.
provided staff with direction, and we will adjourn the meeting. Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Andy's not here. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion carried. Meeting ended at 9:29 p.m. Thank you. Have a great evening.